So let's talk some more about variability. How do you know, once you get your laboratory analysis back and you know how much nitrogen or how much metal is in your sample, how do you know if that value is different from, let's say, the values that you got the first time you came to the site? Or how do you know it's different than your site that's 2 miles down the road? So the way we get at that is we collect replicates, field replicates. So your goal within each bag is to collect a sample that's representative of the population on your plot, on your study site. And the way you know that you achieve that is you collect another bag using the same protocol. So I would go around and collect my first bag, and then I would get a fresh bag and go around on my plot using the same protocol, but not necessarily and not advisably not collecting from the exact same trees, just using the same protocol. And then when you get your numbers back from the laboratory, if you've achieved the collection of a sample that's representative of the population, well, ideally your laboratory values will be the same. So if they're off by 5% or 10%, then you know that's how much error that you have to account for if you want to say that this site or this time you've measured is different than the first time. It's got to be at least 10% different. I'm just throwing that out as a number. And depending on the element that you're measuring and the species, that it may be 5% or it may be 10%. But usually there's some error that's just due to not quite achieving a sample that's representative of the population. So I would say if you have just a few sites that you're monitoring, you should always collect field replicates, at least 2 or even 3 replicates. If you have a lot of sites, like 50 or 100 sites, then you can get away with collecting a replicate every 4th or 5th site, so that you have a handle on what your variability is due to your method, but you don't have to go to the expense to do that at every site. Another source of error is at the laboratory. If the laboratory takes my sample, which will be ground up, and measures the level of nitrogen in it, and then they take another subsample of the same collection, will they get the same value? And if the laboratory is doing a good job, they should get very close to the same value. But that is also another source of variability that you can take into account when you are trying to determine if these values are really different than the first values that you collected or the values at a different site.